Okay, a polynomial f of x has zeros at 2, 6, and negative 4. Write f of x in standard form. So they tell you to name it f of x. So f of x equals. Now, we're trying to write the equation that represents the polynomial with the following zeros. So if the 0 is at positive 2, how do I write that as a factor? X minus 2. And if the 0 is at 6, how do I write that as a factor? X minus 6. And then what about if it's at negative 4? X plus 4. Okay, but keep in mind, they've asked you to write it in standard form. This is factored form because all three of those are factors. To write it in standard form, all we're going to do is what we learned yesterday. Just multiply them out. Okay? So we're going to ignore the x plus 4 to begin with, and we're going to FOIL the first two binomials. When we FOIL it, x times x is x squared. X times negative 6 is negative 2 times x is, and then negative 2 times negative 6 is positive 12. Then what do I need to do? Before I can do that, what do I do? Combine these like terms. So x squared, you tell me, minus 8x, because those combine to a negative 8, and then plus 12. Now I can bring down that binomial x plus 4 and distribute this trinomial to it. Starting with the x squared, I'm not going to do all the lines because it just kind of gets messy. X squared times x is what? X cubed. Because think about it, there's 2 x's here and 1 x here for a total of 3. And then I have to do the x squared times the 4, and that equals, right? And so now I'm done with the x squared. I won't do anything else with it. Now what do I need to distribute times the binomial? The negative 8x. So negative 8x times x is negative 8x squared. Negative 8x times 4 is negative 32x. So now I'm done with the negative 8x. So what's left to distribute? 12 times x is 12x. And 12 times 4 is, okay, so now I'm done with that. And so am I finished with the problem? No, I've got to combine my like terms. So starting from left to right, is there anything to combine with the x cubed? No. Okay, so I'm done with it. What about 4x squared? Right, 4x squared minus 8x squared is correct. Then I move on to the linear terms. Can you combine that with anything? Plus 12x. What's negative 32 plus 12? Right? And then we have one constant, so we just bring it down. Plus 48. Any ideas how we could check to make sure we've done everything right? Okay, that is one option. Like if you took the 2 and cubed it, and then minus 4 times 2 squared, minus 20 times 2 plus 48, what would it equal?
What is that?
Well, let's try it. Plug it in. Do 2 cubed. Okay, you're typing in 2 cubed because we're plugging in this 2 into every x down here. Minus 4 times 2 squared. Minus 20 times 2 plus 48. What do you get? 0. Doesn't that make sense that you'd get 0 because this is called a 0? So if you plugged in 6 into all three of the x's, you would get 0. And if you plugged in negative 4 into all three, you would get 0. And yes, that would confirm that you did it right, but there's an easier way to check it. Any ideas? No ideas? Couldn't we just graph it? Okay, so let's put it in. Y equals x cubed. You tell me the rest. I don't remember it. Minus 20x plus 48. Shh. Graph. Shh. Okay, how many times does it cross the x-axis? 3. X-intercepts are also known as zeros, and the zeros are located at -4, 2, and 6, which is what they said. -4, 2, and 6. So now I know we did it right. Okay, easy way to check it. All right, now number 7. A polynomial f of x has zeros at 1, 0, and 5. Write f of x in standard form. Okay, so f of x equals, to represent a 0 at +1, what would the factor be? X minus 1. What about 0? A 0 at 0? Just an x. Y'all remember that back when we were learning about multiplicity and stuff? Okay, then what about +5? X minus 5. Now, there's a couple of different ways you could start this. You could start by distributing the x times the x minus 1, and then what you got you could FOIL with this, or you could start with just these two and FOIL it, and then at the end distribute. It doesn't matter which way you do it. I personally think it's easier just to go ahead and get FOIL over with. Okay? So if I FOIL these two, what will it give me? Okay, now before I distribute that x, what do I need to do next? Okay, and what will that become? Okay, so now I've FOILed these two binomials, and now I need to distribute this x, and so what will that make the final answer? Cubed. Okay, now, how do we check to make sure we've done it right? Graph it. So we have x cubed. What's the next part? Minus 6x squared. Okay, then we graph it, and we see that it crosses the x-axis 3 times, and those are called zeros, and where are they located? Which is what we started with, 0, 1, and 5. So we know we did it correct. All right, now, you need to work on 8, 9, and 10, which shouldn't take you long at all. While you're working on them, I'm going to bring around the test review sheet. You're going to work on it by yourself. At the end of class, we're going to start going over it. Tonight, you're going to finish it by yourself. Tomorrow, we're going to finish going over it after the 10 square, and Friday is your test.